Welcome again to ASHP's first quarterly webinar for student societies. My name is Gina Luchin. I'm Director of Academic Programs here at ASHP, and I'm very excited to speak with you today about issues that are relevant to your student society as we're approaching recruitment season and starting the brand new academic year. With me today, I have Katie Bowles. She's our social media strategist, and she will go over some information to help you with your SSHP's social media information later today, as well as some resources highlighted for student societies that were developed recently. As we're going through this presentation, feel free to use your question box to ask any specific questions you may have related to the presentation. And then if there's additional questions following the presentation that you'd like us to address, feel free to contact us at students@ashp.org. As we go through the information, this is going to be your gold email address that you can access and contact whenever you have any questions related to student societies or student programming, and we'll be able to address that for you. Typically give us 1 to 2 days, and we will get the question to the appropriate person. So as we start today's quarterly webinar, I did want to kind of go over why we decided to start them. So first of all, as we know, SSHPs have a lot of topics top of mind, especially as you guys get started and you plan your year ahead, whether it be through the recruitment or different events that you have planned. I know there's a lot of challenges, especially now with COVID-19 and some of you transitioning to remote recruitment strategies and some of you doing in person just a little bit different. So we want to have a platform where we're able to talk to you and share information, and also ensure that you're able to get all the resources you need and we can best meet those needs for you. And then also create an open communication channel with ASHP to share best practices, to discover new tools, and go through some of the materials that we have available so that you know how to navigate them. A lot of you are new to your officer position or faculty advisor position, so we want to welcome you to this new and exciting year. Some of you may have been in an elect position last year, and this is the first year you're officially taking over the reins. So congratulations for making this milestone. So a lot of this information hopefully will be helpful and relevant to you. And at the end, we'll also be collecting some future topics as we'll hold these webinars throughout the year. So to start off, I wanted to ask a little poll of everyone just to see where everyone's at and what's top of mind for your SSHP right now. So I'm going to launch a quick question for you. So what does your SSHP struggle with the most out of these categories? So these are some of the information we'll cover today. So I want to make sure we spend adequate time for each of those. So you can go ahead and I'll give you a minute or so to respond. Looks like a couple more people are voting. All right, it looks like most of you have registered one. So what I'm seeing is that most of you are struggling with recruitment and then some social media engagement. So hopefully we'll tackle those today. And then also I see some high marks for both the event planning and for the tracking and submission. So thank you all for responding. Hopefully we'll be able to address all of your concerns today. And if not, again, feel free to shoot us a question throughout the presentation or at the end during our Q&A session. All right, so as we said, we'll cover recruitment, we'll cover the P1 Introductory membership, which many of you may have seen is a new offer that ASHP is offering this year, and then we'll go through the social media toolkit and strategies to share with you. So to start off, The first thing that you guys mentioned is recruitment is very top of mind. Many of you will be conducting your recruitment drives in July and August. And so I want to make you aware of some information that we have coming to your SSHP virtually or in print. So as with every year, ASHP sends a recruitment packet to your SSHPs to assist with your efforts. That is typically mailed to your primary faculty advisor. This year, it's a little different as some of you may be conducting virtual only recruitment strategy. So we had sent out a survey back a couple months ago. For those of you who responded that prefer the virtual only option, you will be receiving an email with the electronic packet. And then the rest of you who did not indicate that you were electronic only, you'll also be receiving the print version. As a reminder, again, this information is going to be going to the individual who's designated as a primary faculty advisor for your SSHP. So that was the person you indicated on the survey or whatever we had in our records prior to. So if that has changed, or if you're wondering who the individual is, please feel free to let us know. But other than that, please expect that we will be mailing out the packages within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and you should be receiving them shortly thereafter. You will receive communication when those packages are mailed, and also some tracking information for your reference. And for those of you with electronic, it will be just a one and done email, and feel free to let us know if you have questions specifically to it. Typically, the packet include brochures, include information to help you with your first meeting, templates, videos, and things that you can use to really engage individuals as you're starting off your campaign. Another resource we're going to talk about today is the ASHP Student Membership and You page. And many of you may be familiar with this resource on the ASHP website. It is a very good resource for you interested in looking at information by class. So it's divided into individuals in their P1, P2, P3, and P4 year. Note for your schools that have a 6-year program, this material is specifically targeted for the professional years in pharmacy school. So that would be the equivalent of your P3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we also have some recruitment resources for student societies, which we'll touch on further today. And this is really the golden key for those of the officers that are planning their recruitment drives and are wanting more information and some of the electronic materials, either to print on their individually or to share electronically. And then we also have a number of resources related to student societies on programmatic and operational discussions. For example, we have the ASHP SSHP recognition program. And I do want to take a little pause here. I know that with COVID-19, many of you have delayed a little bit the process of submitting your application, or you're unsure if the application was submitted. The deadline has passed. It was June 30th. But we do recognize that because of the situation, many of you may be delayed a little bit in the processing. So I do want to let you know that we are extending that deadline just by a week or so. So if your SSHP was unable to fill the application on time, but you're still interested in pursuing recognition for the coming year, please shoot us an email at students@ashp.org, and we'd be happy to mail you to send you that extended link for you to submit your application. Again, it's at students@ashp.org. If you're unsure if you submitted an application, we'd be happy to take a look at that as well. But be sure to submit recognition applications, as recognition is only granted if you have completed your application each year. So a lot of the resources that I talked about are housed in ashp.org/pharmacy student. They are on the little bubble to the right. So mark this URL down. It's an easy one to remember. Just make sure you go there to refer any resources relevant to your student society or any programs that are relevant to students. We have event planning, documentation, communications, recruitment, and also some membership information on how to operationally go through the roster submission process and what to do, which we'll also cover step by step today. So if you haven't checked those out, please feel free to let us know. And then if there's something specifically you're looking for but you can't find on our pages, feel free to send us an email and ask us about it. It is likely that we have it somewhere and you might be not able to find it. But if we don't have it, we'd be happy to look at it and create something for you through the Pharmacy Student Forum. So take a moment and jot that URL down. And then we'll navigate straight into one of the pages we talked about. So the ASHP Membership and You page, as you can see, has the resources by class we discussed. And then it also has the last button right there that I've highlighted membership resources for student societies. This is the gold spot for you guys planning recruitment right now. I know it's top of mind. So you will find the very first link you will encounter is the SSHP member processing and submission guide. First time this year, ASHP has revamped the process by which your student society submits rosters to ASHP. In the past, you used to share an email with us, but we've tried to organize and centralize the process a little bit better, so we may make it easier for you guys as well. So if you click on the first resource, the membership processing and submission guide, it'll take you through step by step. And again, we'll go through that again today with you, but I want to make you aware of the resource for later. Many of you conduct the drives, and the responsible party is the vice president of membership, or perhaps your president-elect or your vice president, whoever is the party responsible. That is the most useful resource for you. As I said, we also have a recruitment packet that comes and gets mailed to you with some giveaways and some pins and also some print posters and brochures. For those of you that opt electronically, you'll receive the same information online. And then also we have some available that live in the website at all times. So outside of the email that you will be receiving, specifically sharing that information with you, you can always access it online. So you will find a template roster for your SSHP recruitment drive. So that's how you will collect the information to submit to ASHP, customizable PowerPoint presentations that you can use on your first meeting or subsequent meetings. It's templated with ASHP's branding, so feel free to use that for all your future events. There is a recruitment video that is refreshed for this year, so you'll be excited to see. We're excited to share it so that you can share it with your members during your recruitment drives in your first meeting. Infographics, posters, and brochures you can share. And then, of course, they're refreshed for this year's social media toolkit to help you navigate the engagement platforms a little bit better. So we'll start with the programmatic stuff and then transition more to the fun towards the end. But let's start with the processing and submission. Many of you are familiar with the old process, again, of mailing your rosters to ASHP. This is slightly different this year. So the first step with any recruitment process is accessing the forms. So if you go to the ASHP membership menu and click resources for student societies, the first thing that you encounter in that page will be the pre-formatted SSHP roster. We ask that all SSHPs use this format for submitting their membership information so that we may process it in a timely manner for you. The roster is simply including all the required information for your new and renewing members, and it will help us streamline the process and hopefully make it a little quicker and easier for everyone. There's also a paper application on there. I do want to point out that that is an optional process. For those of you doing the recruitment in person, you're welcome to print the applications, distribute them, and then collect them in order to be able to put together your roster. For those of you that are doing a remote recruitment process, we recommend that you take the information from the roster and request that via email so that you can keep an electronic file. And then, of course, put it in the roster to submit to ASHP. But two different ways you could do it this year. Many of you may also have your personalized paper applications, and that's completely fine. I do want to note there are two big changes that are happening this year with ASHP. The first one is the P1 Introductory membership, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So that's something to account in your forms. P1 students will be receiving ASHP membership at no cost. And the second one is we have a new section addition, the section of pharmacy educators. So if you are having your own customized application, make sure that that section is added on there as an option for your members to select when they choose what sections they want to be members of. So two major changes there for you. The second step in conducting your membership drive is to actually make the recruitment drive, whether it would be electronically or whether that be in person. For those of you conducting electronically, there's been a number of questions on what platforms are being used and how are you managing the electronic recruitment. We have, as SHP does not restrict the way you do so, and all the ways are going to be accepted for recognition. We do ask that you recruit for both your SSHP state affiliate and ASHP, but the platform you use is up to you. Many of our SSHPs are using Zoom platform, GoToMeeting platform, or other electronic group software that allows you to break into chat box or have that face-to-face interaction, but that's completely up to you. The third part is collecting the membership forms. So we typically recommend setting a deadline for your members in late August and collecting everything by September so that we're able to process everything on time and get students their benefits really early on. And so if you haven't already, we do ask that you set deadlines for your members on when to accept the membership so that you can submit it in bulk. A question that is frequently asked is, what if a student accidentally forgot to share that they're wanting to be a member of ASHP and the deadline has passed, we've already submitted the roster, how can they do it now? There's always the option for members to submit their membership information online by going to ashp.org/join. By that, going through that process, they get the exact same membership and it's just an individual process of signing up. It's a little easier to do it in bulk, but again, if someone has submitted their information late or you already submitted your roster and they were not on it for some reason, please direct them online and we'd be happy to accept the membership through there. They can submit their payment there as well, so you don't have to worry about putting together the checks, deposits, or whatever payment method you're choosing for that delay. If they have questions on how that happens or what the steps are for joining, again, feel free to message us at students@ashp.org and we'd be happy to walk you through that process. The fourth step in submitting your roster is to go online or to our new online submission portal. And we'll go through what that looks like and where that's located. But this year, you're not emailing us the rosters, but you're going through the online portal so that we can effectively process your roster. You will be receiving a notification once your roster has been completed, but we do ask that you allow a few weeks for processing as we typically receive those all together. So they may take a little bit more time for them to get processed. On that application, you will indicate the form of payment. And it is important to remember that your rosters will not be processed until payment has been received. If you're mailing a check or if you're doing direct deposit, we ask that you indicate that on the form so we know what to be looking out for. And the information on where to write the check and how to write the check is also online so that we have an easy and quick way for you to reference it. This year, if possible, we do prefer the direct deposit option, but we do realize that a lot of checks are the primary way by which SSHPs are sending payment. So feel free to use whatever is most applicable to you. But just make sure you indicate that on the form. And then lastly, as I said, I allow a few weeks for processing. If you have submitted your roster and you haven't heard back from us and time is passing, please make sure to send us an email. Don't wait until December to do so. We do want to make sure you guys get your benefits and ensure that there wasn't a glitch or that the form was submitted properly and that everything is received on our end so that we may process your rosters. So please go ahead and never hesitate to contact us. We'd be happy to work with you on that. And that brings me to the first update that we've made to the process, which is the pre-formatted roster. I know in the past there have been a couple versions that were circulating, so I do want to show you what this one looks like this year. As you see, the top has some information about when you submit the roster, so please make sure you indicate a date so that we know it's the most current roster. And then if there was a revision, we know which revision to look at and which one is the most currently dated. And then also include your school name. That's one that often gets missed by SSHPs. It is very important that you identify your school name in the roster so we know who we're processing information for. On the left-hand side, you're going to see an ASHP, SSHP state affiliate, and ASHP 3 columns. And just as a reminder, those are just for your ease of processing. You're only submitting payment for those who indicate ASHP membership, but we do ask you to indicate with an X where other students belong for easier tracking. First name, middle name, last name, those remain the same. Address, city, state, and zip, those are required for your membership processing because that is where you'll receive some of your benefits and some of our other ASHP information. phone number. And then this year we also have a secondary email address. This is because at times your primary email address, especially those associated with the school account, may bounce back, or we may not be able to get that associated with your account. So it's always preferred to have a secondary email in case we need to recover your account or in case you lose access to it, so we're able to connect that appropriately. Graduation date with the month and the year is requested, and that is especially important this year as we are processing the P1 memberships a little bit different, and then primary and secondary sections as well. I'm going to exit from the presentation really quickly just so that I can show you what that pre-formatted roster looks like in person. So as I said, those 3 columns there are first. We have the first, middle, last name, address, and all the contact information, email address. The ASHP member number is only required for those who already have an existing account. And to find that, individuals will have to indicate that when you're collecting their information. So if they're an existing ASHP member, they can go on their online account and find their member number under account information. If they are unable to retrieve that information, they can contact ASHP customer service and they will be able to get that information to you, or you can provide some context like letting us know that they were unable to retrieve. For those of you with more than 1 campuses, we do ask that you fill this out. For those of you that are all together, no need to worry about the campus, so that's column Q. And then another quick change is as you're indicating your primary or secondary section. So this again is for new members, since renewing members already have their profile selected. But for new members, we need you to indicate 1 primary section at the very minimum, and then secondary sections that they are interested in. So this again is information to be collected when you're doing your recruitment drives, and it is reflected on our updated application as well. We do ask you to indicate if the person is renewing or if they're new to ASHP. Again, that will help us process appropriately the roster. And then if they're selecting a multi-year option, again, that will help us in understanding what your payment is reflective of. As a reminder, just because, and we'll touch on this again, because there's a new P1 student benefit this year, P1 students will not be eligible for their multi-year membership, but your P2 through P2s and 3s are going to be eligible for this. Another thing to note is if a student is opting for the monthly payment option, so that is the around $5 a month, that option is not available for bulk processing. So the individual will have to go through their online account and through the join process at ASHP independently. So that's one exception where you will not include those folks in this roster, but they will have to do it independently online, just because we'll need their personal credit card on file for that in order to be doing the monthly charge. And then lastly, we asked you to indicate if the individual was accounted for in your check. Your P1s should not be accounted in your check because they will have a balance of $0 for their membership. This helps us determine and ensure that your check reflects the number of individuals that are being charged membership. So we do ask that you take a good look at this roster. Again, it's online on multiple places you can find it, but we do ask that you completely fill it out. And if you have questions while doing so, please email us at students@ashp.org for any clarification. I don't see any questions, but feel free to be adding them as we go along. I want to ensure that this is a clear process for everyone. And I know that there are a number of changes this year, so feel free to enter your question into the question box. And we have the first one. Okay, so what about SSHPs that have state affiliates submit roster to ASHP? That's a good question. Have we reached out to TSHP? So we'll talk about that. Thank you for your question. We'll talk about that in a minute. There are a couple exceptions, and one of them is if your SSHP is being processed in bulk through your state affiliate, you can continue sending those rosters via email because those will be processed a little bit differently. So thank you for that. And then to clarify, we do not put members paying $5 on their roster sheet. That's correct. So if they're wanting to do a monthly, so if they're specifically doing monthly, you may include them on your roster for completeness if you want to with a $0 balance, but you will not be including them in your check. So you can either exclude them altogether from the sheet, or indicate on that last column about the payment that they're a monthly payer, and so not included in the check. This helps us when we process your check to ensure that the numbers match. And because, again, as I mentioned, they will need their own credit card on file for that. Your SSHP typically does not cover the monthly payment for them. I hope that helps answer your question. But good questions, keep them coming. Anything else operational on this piece? All right, I don't see any more at the moment, but we'll continue to check periodically to ensure. And then the next step is your SSHP membership submission portal. Again, with the exception of the couple folks we talked about, those of you that are going through the state affiliate for all of the information and the registration, everybody else should be going through the SSHP membership submission portal. And so this, again, is new for this year, and we'll go through how to fill that out. But first, I'm going to lead you guys to the web page just to see what it looks like. So as we said, you would go to ashp.org/pharmacy student, and then you would transition over to ASHP membership NU. So once you are in the ASHP membership NU page, you're going to then click on membership resources for student societies. And the very first option is SSHP member processing and submission guide. Okay, we have the submission portal right here for you, or if you're looking for all the instructions, again, this is where you go, and this blue button is what leads you to the actual submission portal. Okay, so that's for your reference there. And we'll go through what that looks like from the operational piece to ensure that everyone is good to go with us. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So looking at this, again, once you click on that button to submit your roster, there's going to be this survey portal that pops up. So make sure you reference, again, all the information relevant to the member resources. The number one thing to note is your school or college of pharmacy. There are a couple new schools and colleges of pharmacy. We've tried to account that if your school is not on there, or if your campus is not on there and you're submitting independently, there is an option for other, in which we will ask you to type it exactly as you want your information displayed and processed. So make sure you put the school information, and if it's not already on there, please let us know by indicating the school name. We then ask you to designate a representative for the contact field. This is the officer who is going to be managing the recruitment roster. So if you are the VP of membership, if you are the VP of SSHP, or if you are the faculty advisor, whoever processes the roster needs to be the one indicated on this form. And this is because we use this exact name and email contact information if there are questions about the payment, if there's issues about the roster information, if we're missing some information and need more complete questions to be answered. This is where we'll go. So please go ahead and indicate the appropriate representative there. We also, just to back up, we also ask for the faculty advisors. Sometimes if we're unable to get in touch with the student, we typically do fall back on the advisor information, or sometimes the advisor is the responsible party, in which case you can just indicate that there's a duplication. Payment information. This year we are asking you to indicate what payment method that you are sending, just so that we're able to know and anticipate a check. In the SSHP member processing guide, you will also see information about how to appropriately mail that check, what address it needs to be at, and then also what it needs to include. We typically ask that you print a printed version of your roster that accompanies the check, so that we can ensure that we understand what that monetary value reflects. In case there is a discrepancy in the payment, or in case there's a discrepancy in the number of students that are being processing for the SSHP. So please indicate that. And if you are using a different method, please indicate under other. If your school is submitting only for P1s, for example, and there is no payment to be had, then indicate so for us. But please go ahead and send that to us so that we know what to be looking for. And then once you have completed the information, again, just very basic demographic information, we ask you to upload the roster. Again, please use the pre-formatted roster so that we're able to keep the appropriate formatting and process it. And then make sure you hit that submit button. Oftentimes we see that someone thinks they have submitted a roster, but if you did not hit the submit button and get that thank you message, you have not completed the process. So ensure that this has gone through and that you've clicked the button and that you've received that thank you screen so that you know you're good to go and ready for processing. Let me see it. Is there any, I don't see any other questions right now. Let me triple check. Okay. There's a couple more. So if students prefer to pay online, either monthly or full payment, would we just include their information on the roster and indicate that they have already paid online? Yes, you're welcome to do that. So on the very last column, again, that column is for information. You would indicate, yes, they're included as part of payment, or you would say, no, individual paid online, or individual is monthly and paid by themselves, or has registered independently. So yes, you can still claim them as a number in your recruitment, but again, ensuring that we are aware that they have been, they paid through a separate process. So very, very good questions. Thank you for the clarification. Again, use that last column as your notes section. So if there's any information missing or if there's any payment related information you want, that we make sure those are appropriately addressed as well. All right, so next up, we have some exceptions, and we already addressed one of those. We had a comment, so we addressed that one, but there are some other exceptions periodically that come up. For example, if your student society is an umbrella organization and all those and the SSHP payments are processed as part of your APHI payment, or if your other student societies, that we can take on a case-by-case basis. So if you can email us at students@ashp.org, we can ensure that your school is appropriately managing the rosters and that we're receiving them in the appropriate fashion to ensure that we also do not miss your rosters. So again, umbrella organization, group enrollments with your state affiliates, and the other structures that are slightly different are very important to note. So please make us aware so that we may appropriately cater to the situation on hand. Another visual that I wanted to include here, just for everyone's reminder, is the difference between SSHP, the state affiliate, and ASHP. This is a question that often members ask, and wondering what is the difference between the three. Some of you lump the payment with ASHP, SSHP, and the state affiliate together, and that's completely fine. You can continue to do so. We'll go through the P1 membership. That will change slightly this year, and so just as a note to yourself to adjust those rates. Some of you have everything as completely independent, and that's fine too. So whatever system works best for your student society, we welcome those. We just do want to emphasize that these are three different entities, and so that's important to remember when processing. So ensure that the appropriate bucket of money is assigned to each of the independent societies. So your SSHP may have your individual dues, and then state affiliate dues, and the ASHP dues as well. And if you have questions, again, or if you're wondering what should you do for your situation in your SSHP, feel free to email us. We'd be happy to address that. Okay, I'll pause for just a moment here just to see if there's any additional questions that are on there. Okay, there is one. Newly elected officer and not part of the survey method reviewing recruitment materials. How soon will we be added so that I can be able to receive the materials? Okay, if you have not received the recruitment material survey, check with your faculty advisor. It is likely that they were the ones that received it and responded. Typically, we sent it to the officer and the faculty advisor. If your faculty advisor is also new and they did not receive it, then send us an email so that we can make sure you're added to that list and that you receive the recruitment material information. Okay, I would encourage you to do that as soon as possible, since those shipment packets are going out, especially if you're going to be requesting print materials for physically be mailed to you. So again, check with your faculty advisor and then let us know. And if neither of you has filled out that survey, just let us know so we make sure that the appropriate contact information is included for your chapter. Okay, so P1 Introductory Membership. What is it? So many of you may have seen it through the news link or some of the announcements that we've sent out. This is a new offering that ASHP has provided, and it provides free 1-year membership to students in their first professional year of pharmacy school. This program is designed for those entering pharmacy school and learning about the pharmacy profession, exploring career interests, and there will be a number of targeted communications to this group. It was designed in response to colleges of pharmacy and schools of pharmacy and SSHPs really sharing with us the struggle with P1 membership and recruitment. So we wanted to help support that initiative and provide this free membership and help you guys in your recruitment too, especially capturing and engaging early on those students. So as we mentioned, the impact of this program is obviously in your rosters. You will not be collecting payment for the first year students, and they will be also receiving some communications to help them navigate some of the information, such as what is residency or what is health systems pharmacy. So we will be supporting that initiative with you. So there are 3 different methods for students to enroll in this P1 membership. One, obviously through your student recruitment campaign. So when your SSHP goes through the recruitment, feel free to add all your P1s on there, indicate that no payment should be collected, indicate their graduation year, and they'll be enrolled in the program automatically. If they want to do it independent of your student society, again, for those folks that are wanting to do it earlier or later, they can go online and register at ashp.org/join. And then for those who are interested, ASHP is open to working with your school of pharmacy and auto-enrolling all your P1 students. We would need a roster for your full list of P1s, and then we'd be able to auto-enroll everyone into the program. There's no payment involved. We would just need that list. You send us the roster, and then we process that immediately. So for that, we'd be happy to coordinate with you and your school. So you can email us at students@ashp.org, and we'd be able to talk through some more of the logistics of how that will be happening. Any questions on the P1 membership that maybe we can talk about? So if we are a 3-year program, is there any additional way we should indicate students are P1s on the roster? Great question. So yes, when you put the graduation date and then on the payment column that I shared with you, that's again where you would put that comment and you would say no payment. This is we are a 3-year program. This is a P1 student. Alternatively, you can put under the graduation column, you could indicate P1 and then their graduation. But I would say the best way to do that is on that comment column on the very last part of the spreadsheet, so that we know that this is the equivalent of your P1. Another question we've received is on schools that have a 6-year program. How should they approach the P1 membership? So really, this program was designed for students in their first professional year. So that would be the equivalent of the P3 out of 6 versus the P1 out of 6. However, we are giving schools an option. So if you prefer to enroll your P1s out of 6 instead of your P3s out of 6, we'd be happy to work with you. We do, however, ask that you contact us in advance to let us know so that we can appropriately process those rosters and know how to do so. Again, those are some very few exceptions for those non-traditional programs, but we'd be happy to look at that with you. Again, make sure that any comments, questions, or anything related to the roster, you either send it to us or you indicate some comments on that roster so that we know how to best process your own situation. Great questions so far, guys. And that concludes the first part. That is really the operations part. And now we're going to dive into more of the fun and resource related information. But as we're moving on, feel free to send in more questions. If there's something you thought about now or you think about later as we keep talking, we'd be able to help you with that. So don't be shy. Keep those questions coming, and we'd be happy to address them. Oops, sorry. So there we go. So next up, we have information about programs and resources. So again, if you go to Pharmacy Student and then Student Societies, there's an entire page dedicated to programs and resources for your SSHP. This includes information on advocacy and how to conduct advocacy events at your student society, branding and where do you get the recognition logo, event planning and what kind of best practices we have in the past. There's a program called Share and Reapply with SSHPs sharing how exactly they conducted some very interesting events and how you could replicate it. If you have those events, we can also spotlight them. Leadership development information and some pre-formatted workshops. So these are a number of resources that we've developed that is basically a complete program and a workshop that your SSHP can run independently. All you need is to take the information that's already pre-populated for you and find and work with your faculty advisor to find some presenters. But a lot of good information that you can use, especially as you're starting to plan. We can certainly focus some of our future webinars specifically directed at our programs and resources, but I did want to make mention, especially because many of you are starting to plan. Another recommendation is as you're thinking about future events for the year, think about your recognition criteria and maybe help that shape some of the planning. We do get frequently the question about PAI week, and last year it was a little flexible. This year, the executive committee will be deciding on a PAI week date, and that will be released, and we'll announce that through our news link and through our monthly updates that we get for our liaisons and faculty advisors. So be on the lookout for that, for specifics on PAI week. And again, I encourage you to go online and look at all the resources available. And if you have something that you're looking for and you can't find, let us know, and we'd be happy to direct you to the appropriate resource. And with that, I know that's another big piece of what you were looking at is the social media toolkit. And so I'm going to pass it on to Katie just to talk to you a little bit about our new toolkit and what that looks like and what tips and tricks we can use for your SSHPs. Before I do, there was one more question. It says, was this webinar recorded for student officers unable to attend? Yes, there will be a recording available, and that will be shared through the news link. So be sure to check your August and September news link. We'll include those both, and then also in your updates. I will say that the August updates are going to focus on the member processing, just because this is a new process and we want to make sure you guys are comfortable. But yes, a recording will be available. And if you're unable to find it, again, email us and we'd be happy to direct you to that link. Okay, and then Katie, if you're on the line, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thanks, Gina.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to briefly walk us through the new social media toolkit for SSHPs. As Gina mentioned, it can be found in the social media resources section of the Student Society section of the ASHP website. So this toolkit is really for anybody at any level of social media knowledge, even if you've never used social or if you're a daily user. Hopefully there's something helpful for everyone in it. So just to begin, there's a brief overview of social media in general and how it can be used to promote your SSHP as well as engaging with ASHP content. After that, we have a list of the official ASHP social media accounts. Please feel free to reference this anytime you're making a post about your SSHP or ASHP. This, by tagging us and engaging with our posts, this really allows us on the ASHP end to bring you more eyes on your content. Additionally, this year we're recommending that you begin including hashtag ASHP students in your posts. Again, this is just another way to build conversation and allow others to engage in your posts, whether or not it specifically mentions them. So by using hashtag ASHP students, you'll be able to engage and network with SSHP members and ASHP student members from across the country. After that, we have a downloadable kind of toolkit of creative assets. These include different graphics you can use, some customizable templates, really anything to help you get started if you're not sure where to begin or if you don't have images of your own, particularly now when a lot of people are stuck at home. This will be really helpful for creating new posts. We also, I apologize if you guys are hearing outside noise. There's a garbage truck outside my apartment right now. We also mentioned using Canva. If you're unfamiliar with Canva, it's basically a free online Photoshop. I use it all the time as a social media strategist. It's very easy to use, and it can really help you get creative with your social media posts. So you can even download the creative assets that we mentioned here and then upload them into Canva and customize them that way. We've also included some sample social media posts and thought starters to help you kind of get the creative juices flowing with your own posts. Feel free to use these posts verbatim or, just use them to think about what you would like to say specifically. We have a few different posts included that kind of touch on different themes that SSHPs and ASHP student membership might be appropriate for. And we also include links for you to share. Additionally, we've included a brief list of themes to consider. So this is just something to help you think about what you would like to share on social media about your ASHP and SSHP experience, whether it's like a personal story or a story of maybe a mentor or a friend you made through SSHP membership, and then some other ideas for social media posts and ways to engage, such as live tweeting from a meeting or right now from an online virtual meeting, or posting shout outs to other student members. There's a million ways you can do this, and hopefully this helps bring some more ideas. After that, we've also included screenshots of examples of posts from our official ASHP accounts. Again, feel free to use these as thought starters or creative inspiration for your own posts, just to give you an idea of what we're posting regularly. And then finally, we've got a list of social media do's and don'ts. I'm going to walk through each one of these. Some of these are probably obvious to a lot of you. Some of them you might not be as familiar with. So do please tag ASHP's official social media channels when promoting anything ASHP related or SSHP related. This will include or increase your social media reach, and it'll also allow us on the ASHP end to engage with and share your posts to, again, help increase your reach. Do engage with ASHP content, which that just benefits us all. It increases ASHP's reach, and it'll also let us know that you're active on social so we can engage with you guys as well. We also recommend that you include visual content and links with your posts as much as possible. This just increases engagement in general, and it helps your posts be more informative to followers. And finally, do use hashtags, especially on Twitter and Instagram where they're trackable. And as a reminder, the official hashtag for student members is hashtag ASHP students. On to the don't list. So just a couple, and these are probably pretty obvious, but it's worth saying. Don't share inappropriate content. An example of this would just be to avoid sharing pictures and posts that may be viewed as unprofessional, just because a lot of employers now, when you're looking for an internship or future opportunities, they'll look at your social media channels. So a good rule of thumb is just, if you're unsure whether something's appropriate, just don't post it. Additionally, don't feel like you have to be active on every social media platform. If you have the time and the capacity to do that, that's awesome. But really having one well-maintained account is much better than having 5 channels that you never post on. When deciding which platforms to use, just think about your own social media use and what your network, whether that's friends, colleagues, whatever, what channels they're on, and which platforms would most benefit your goals. So for example, if you enjoy sharing news articles, then Twitter may be best for you. If you're more of a visual person and you like sharing images, photos, whatever, you may want to focus on Instagram. Finally, the Pharmacy Student Forum Community and E-Communications Advisory Group has also developed a few flyers to help you navigate social media, and those can also be downloaded at the bottom of this toolkit. And again, as Gina said, if you have any questions at all, you're welcome to contact us at students@ashp.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. As a reminder too, this year we've started incorporating, including your hashtags for your SSHP on posts that are relevant to you. For example, if you're highlighted in one of our spotlights, we want to tag you on there. So feel free to be sharing that with whenever submitting your spotlights on when submitting any information to ASHP about a feature for your student society. We would be happy to tag you on there, individual students for some of our words and things like that. I don't see any specific questions for Katie, but feel free to share. Again, this is a toolkit that was just upgraded and updated this year. So we're happy to share it, and we're happy to incorporate more information. As you're developing posts and need more guidance or more help, we'd love to help you out. So keep us informed of what your needs are, and we'd be happy to work with you to address them. So with that, I wanted to provide an opportunity for some more questions. I know that this is a lot to take in, and we have a few more minutes left, so I want to make sure you have the time to ask questions and we can address them with you today on any of the topics we talked about. And if I may, I also have one more question I wanted to ask you guys related to the next webinar. So following this webinar, you will be receiving a brief survey asking you things like what topics would you like to see in future webinars similar to this, and different areas of engagement. But as we're planning for the next one, I did want to ask you about dates. But before that, I see a couple questions popped up. So one of them is for Katie. Katie, do you have any tips on how to elevate our social media platform if we're doing virtual or recruitment events?
That's a great question. So since basically everyone is virtual right now, I would recommend treating those events as you would a live event. So you can still do a lot of social media coverage, even if you're not having like speakers come in. You know, it's kind of hard to like live tweet from events like that, but you can always encourage the people attending to take screenshots or show how they're participating. And you could also, depending on what kind of event it is, if there's a specific hashtag that you want to incorporate, just make sure that you're sharing all of that information ahead of the event and really encouraging the attendees to post as much as possible. Because one good thing about these virtual events is that everyone's already at their computer and, you know, their phone's probably right there. It's a lot different from live events where there's a lot of distractions around. You really have their hopefully undivided attention and it's all online. So they should be able to even to post on social even more easily than usual.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Katie. The next question was on PAI week and when it will be. As I mentioned earlier, the Pharmacy Student Forum Executive Committee will be meeting in this summer, and we'll be discussing the specifics. Most likely is going to be in the spring, so we will not be bringing this. We will not be making it quick for you, so you guys will have some months to plan and hopefully get something good for PAI week. In the past, it was February. It is likely that is going to be February again, but we will confirm that as soon as the executive committee has made that decision, we'll communicate that so you guys can start planning. Another question was on going over the process of how student chapters should auto-enroll P1s to ASHP. That's a great question. So for that one, we would, what we would do is we would take the roster from your school that has the information for your P1 students, and we would process that roster automatically. So you would be, we would be working directly with your school. And so to that, we typically ask that we coordinate. So feel free to email us at students@ashp.org, and we'd be happy to walk you through that process and help connect to ensure that we get the information needed. But yes, that is an option to auto enroll, and we'd be happy to work with you specifically on that. Another question was on getting the link to rewatch this webinar. Yes, this webinar was recorded, and we will be sharing it in the upcoming news links for students, and also some of the updates. Question on what's the deadline for submitting the SSHP membership roster. So we don't necessarily have a final deadline, but we do ask that all rosters are in by September or at least mid-September. That is mostly so that your members can get the most benefit. Until we process the roster, they're not able to access all their ASHP benefits, so we'd hate for them to pay and not be able to access their information. So the earlier you get it in, the better. The earlier rosters are submitted are processed a little bit quicker just because we don't have as much of a volume. We ask the minute you have all your information completed, send it over to us so we can process it right away. We do understand that delays happen, especially this year with COVID-19. A lot of things are changing, so we will be happy to take the roster anytime. We understand that a lot of things are changing, but the quicker you can have it, the better it will be. So by September would be ideal if you're able to get those into us. And then any updates on the clinical skills competition. So we are still determining the process for the clinical skills competition. I believe that student societies will be able to conduct that independently, but I do have actually our coordinator online. So Maria, I didn't know if there's any information you wanted to share with our student societies on some more details with the clinical skills.
Hi, Gina. Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Maria, and I help out with logistics on the back end for clinical skills competition. And so primarily after discussions with just the foundation and our volunteer coordinators and judges, we've determined that we're going to let all of the schools of pharmacy kind of coordinate on their own, just because we didn't want to put any barriers to the schools depending on whatever softwares or resources they have available. So if you're able to host a competition and figure out how to host it virtually, that's great. If not, there's not going to be any, I guess, ramifications if you don't host a competition. We're open to helping out in any way that we can and answering any questions that we can. But we're also going to be creating a Connect community specifically for all of the clinical skills competition local coordinators so that you guys can share experiences and ask questions of each other to see how other schools are hosting their competitions. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, ASHP is going to leave it to each school of pharmacy to determine how they want to host it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Maria. And just to add on to that, one of the requirements of ASHP, SSHP recognition is conducting a clinical skills competition, understanding that a lot of you may be challenged in the fact that virtual learning environments may not allow for an in-person competition, or you may not have the platforms and tools available. We will not be considering that in your application. So if you're unable to conduct clinical skills because of COVID-19, please note that on the application, and we will forgo that requirement for your specific instance. If you're able to, that's great, and we'd love to see all the creative ways that SSHPs will be conducting it. But once again, that's not a burden for this coming year of recognition. If you're unable to conduct it, that will not have any impact on your recognition next year. So keep that in mind and pass the word along. So we're coming up on our hour, with the last question being on the time frame for the next webinar. We want to gauge if Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, what days work best for you. So we've added three options that I ask you if you have a preference on which one to conduct the next update webinar on. We'd love to get your feedback. And as a reminder, as everyone is answering, I do want to remind you that you will receive a survey after this webinar, and we do ask you to fill it out. It's just 5 questions really about topics you'd like to see next, but we really want to make sure that we're addressing the things that are most top of mind for you guys and providing the information and the resources you need. So feel free to chime in, and then if you for some reason don't get the survey but want to let us know about feedback or comments or ideas, again, the student mailbox is there for you. So I see Mondays seem to be a good day for most. So we'll take note on that and continue to hold those on Mondays when possible. So thank you again, everyone, for attending. I hope you found this information helpful. As I said, we're always available even after today's webinar to answer your questions. And anytime that you have comments, questions, feedback, we'd be happy to take it. Again, this webinar will be recorded, and we'll be sharing the link with you in the next few months. And then more recordings and more webinars to come, and we'll be announcing that through the news link and your monthly updates. So with that, thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.